The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. What a day. Big, very packed show today, and I thought it was a pretty good one, and good bonus show stories as well. We talked on yesterday's bonus show about how Richard Ojeda is running for president on the Democratic side, and that I don't think he's the right person to run. Mark Penn, who is a longtime Clinton advisor, has written an op-ed saying he believes Hillary Clinton is going to run in 2020. And I also don't think that's a good idea. You know, it's not... This is totally separate, Pat, from my thoughts about Hillary Clinton's political positions. I just think it's time to get beyond Bill and Hillary Clinton as potential presidents of the United States. I just think it's not the right path for Democrats.
I think it's just arrogance and hubris on her part. She may just think that the third time's the charm and that the country actually wants her. And maybe it comes down to the fact that she is a very qualified person in the sense that she was First Lady and she was U.S. Senator and she was Secretary of State. So she feels like she deserves it. But if you lose to Donald Trump, please don't come back. Please don't do this.
Hasn't a lot of that, though, been kind of made irrelevant by Donald Trump in the sense that the entire experience piece, yes, it may matter to a portion of the electorate. I care about that. You care about that. Many people in our audience do. But if you're thinking of winning, does that even really matter when Donald Trump is currently president of the United States?
I just bring it up in this context because I'm trying to illustrate the point that she thinks she deserves it, that her resume is so strong that she just it just naturally follows that she should be the next president of the United States because she held all of these positions. And, you know, to many, it doesn't even matter so much what she did in those positions. She voted for the war in Iraq, for example, and it doesn't disqualify her among many, even on the left.
I also read in that op-ed by Mark Penn that she would be unlikely to announce. So it seems as though there is actually agreement with what I said early last week before the midterms, that you're going to see 2020 Democratic candidates announced pretty early. We've already seen Richard Ojeda. We talked to Andrew Yang like months ago, and he's running for 2020. So Mark Penn seems to agree that you are going to see Democratic candidates announced pretty early. But also he says that Hillary Clinton wouldn't likely to be one of those, but she would be more of a later entrant as we get closer to the actual primaries. I have no idea, Pat, if that's good strategy or not, but it seems as though the approach would be let the herd thin itself before she arrives on the scene.
That could be possible because I think it's going to be a packed debate stage. They could even have the two-tiered debate system like the Republicans had to do in 2016. There's so many names out there, likely candidates. I mean, you have Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and Sherrod Brown and Cory Booker and Michael Avenatti, and then you get into the celebrities. Like, it's got to be a packed field, I think.
I think you're right. And the only problem that I have sort of with the idea of so many candidates is that what works for Republicans doesn't often work for Democrats, or often doesn't work for Democrats. And the fact that a huge field led to the Republicans winning the White House in 2016 doesn't in any way guarantee that it's going to have the same effect for Democrats. And I just think, why am I so worried, Pat, about 2020 for Democrats? Is it because I think they're doing anything particularly wrong, or is it because it's a totally different era and getting Trump out of there requires a very precise and specific plan?
I think it really is just that Trump is a formidable candidate because nothing sticks to him. And it could also be tough for Democrats to win in some of those swing states like Ohio and Florida. You know, I don't know if it's an uphill battle. I think it's about 50-50 whether or not Trump wins the re-election. But those odds are certainly to the point where there's no comfort that we can find in them.
Certainly not. We'll talk more about this. Plenty of time. We've got 2 years, and this is going to be something we will be covering. So there's been this Twitter blackout going on. Protesters last week showed up to Fox News host Tucker Carlson's house and were yelling and doing all sorts of stuff. And since then, apparently, in protest of Twitter not removing Tucker Carlson's address quickly enough, Fox News has been protesting by not tweeting. They've gone silent on Twitter for days. And I think that there have actually been some other right-wing Twitter accounts that have actually done the same thing. And in the midst of this, news broke of an incident that Tucker Carlson was actually involved in at, I guess it's a club. I don't know if we would call it a country club. Oh, it is. It's called Farmington Country Club. It literally calls itself a country club. And Tucker Carlson sort of broke the silence to tweet, "Last month, one of my children was attacked by a stranger at dinner. For her sake, I was hoping to keep the incident private. It's now being politicized by the left. Here's what happened." And he attached a statement where he claims that there was someone at this club who called his daughter a whore and maybe even other things, that then his son went over, confronted the guy, and threw a glass of wine at him. A kerfuffle escalated, and as Tucker Carlson tells the story, eventually that guy was kicked out of the club and his membership was revoked. I believe, Pat, part of the entire thing is also that the guy in question is Hispanic or looks Hispanic, whatever that means. And that has become a subject of speculation by some on the left saying, oh, look, it's the anti-immigrant Fox News host yelling at a Hispanic guy at a country club. It's still early. Like, I just don't think we have all the information, but it's just an unpleasant incident, to say the least.
Certainly rare to find a fight at a country club, but I guess if Tucker Carlson's involved, that certainly could happen because there's so much vitriol against him. I guess because of how he's so outspoken on his nationalist views. Like, he's not one of those people on Fox News who just always spout the right-wing talking points. He's not like a hatchet man for the Republican Party like many other anchors are. I think he does speak his own mind, but within that mind, there are some really vile ideas, and maybe that's why he's being targeted right now.
Well, the other man in question, I believe it's Granados is the guy's last name, Juan Manuel Granados. He says that he didn't call Tucker Carlson's daughter anything and that Carlson was threatening him. And then in the midst of this is Michael Avenatti, who is the person who originally released the video of Tucker Carlson arguing with this guy at a country club. Should we even care about this? Like, is it at all relevant what the facts of this incident are to our evaluations of Tucker Carlson as a political commentator?
No, I don't think that this particular incident is all that important. What is important is members of the left going to his house at night, trying to break in his door, causing his wife to seek shelter within like a pantry or something. I guess Tucker Carlson wasn't home for the incident, but we don't want to see anything like that, especially at nighttime when those people are going to feel not just intimidated, but like they actually are in risk of losing their life, and we don't want to see that happen.
I actually don't know the details of Twitter supposedly failing to take down Tucker's address from Twitter. They said what Fox News is saying is that they immediately contacted Twitter saying, you got to take this down right away. People are showing up at his house, and Twitter supposedly said something along the lines of, oh, please, we've got a process for this. You've got to file a ticket. But I don't actually know what happened, but I believe we will eventually get the full story. On Saturday Night Live over the weekend, my friend Stu Brooks played bass for the band on SNL, which is really, really cool to see. Congrats to Stu. The regular bassist is touring with someone. I don't know who. So my buddy Stu got the call, Pat, and he was right there behind Liev Schreiber. And it was great to see. I was tweeting and posting about it all weekend.
Is that the story that we have for today's bonus show? Is that the third
No,
story?
it's not.
Oh.
But the story is about this episode of Saturday Night Live, and it was one in which Pete Davidson apologized for a joke he made on the prior show about a former Navy SEAL and Congressman-elect Dan Crenshaw. And Davidson mocked the Texas Republican who served in Afghanistan, lost an eye, on air with the zinger, "You may be surprised to hear he's a congressional candidate for Texas and not a hitman in a porno movie." And I guess that was considered offensive to some because part of the hitman in a porno movie thing alluded to the fact that the guy has an eye patch, and some people were offended, so Pete Davidson has apologized. What do you think, Pat? Was he right to apologize? Is this people being too sensitive?
Oh, well, he definitely should have apologized because that wasn't the worst of it. He, I think, ad-libbed a little bit, and he said, you know, this guy actually lost an eye because he was serving in a war or something. It's like to shrug it off, to make a joke out of it. And I think that does cross the line, especially on national television. You know, Dan Crenshaw is not a great person voting record-wise. Certainly, I don't agree with his politics, but you can't go on national TV and start insulting war veterans, people who have fought for the country. You're not going to get any sympathy from anyone if you do that.
Yeah, and it seemed pretty bipartisan. Democrat Tammy Duckworth saying this was totally inappropriate, and people on the left and right, Ben Shapiro and many others. So this one seems pretty cut and dry and not, I guess, an instance of, what would we call it? Not an instance of people being too sensitive, that this was genuinely the wrong thing to do. And, you know, I watched SNL for the first time in a long time as a full episode over the weekend because my friend Stu was playing bass on the show. And Liev Schreiber is funny. He's a brilliant actor. But a lot of the skits really were not funny. And I don't know if this is how SNL is all the time now, but there's a lot of not funny stuff on there.
I'm really not into it either. Like, I'll see some clips. I love watching, what's her name? She played Hillary Clinton. Can't remember. And Jeff Sessions. Like, she's fantastic. Even Alec Baldwin's impersonation of Trump. That's okay. I like watching those political skits, but I don't watch most of the show. I just see the clips later on.
No. Yep, I watch like the political stuff that goes viral. I will watch later. Let me know if you're in the audience and you have a really strong position about SNL. My guess is most people in our audience just don't really care that much one way or the other about Saturday Night Live. If you think I'm wrong and it's the funniest thing out there, let me know. If you think I'm not strongly stating enough how terrible Saturday Night Live is, also let me know. I want to hear from you.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.